Hey everybody, it's Patty XRP, and I got with me as always.
Mickey be fresh.
Nice. How you doing, Mickey?
We're doing good today. Thunderstorms coming to the northeast here, but otherwise today's been a great day. A lot of news been dropping, so we have a lot to talk about. While everyone comes in, I unfortunately, where I am, I can't see the questions. Patty's going to be taking care of that side of things today. But I guess one thing I want to start off with, this Algorand thing, I think is interesting that they're coming and becoming part of the Flare community now. We just had a tweet, and there's some interaction between, the Algorand Foundation and the Flare networks, which is good. They're born out of MIT. DAI on his video earlier today said that Brad Garlinghouse took some pictures with the people from Algorand. So just something, I think is interesting. The integration of another community is really healthy. And I think this goes in line, Patty, what you've been saying about, and I've been saying about the ending of the tribalism and bringing communities together. So bringing another healthy community like Algorand into Flare looks to be, the possible next F asset, the fifth one.
Yeah, I mean, I
And it might,
definitely like that the borderless capital is kind of already reaching out and
that's right.
interested in this happening. So, when you think about, other communities as well as, what's behind that token that you're bringing onto the Flare network as an F asset, that's definitely something that I like to see, prioritize the groups that are actually going to come on and participate.
So now borderless capital is behind like funding of Algorand when they got going, right? Just so everyone's clear on who they are.
Yeah.
Yes, so
Yes.
everyone knows that. So that's good. I mean, that will probably be the first asset that will be voted on by the actual Flare community. And I think that's going to be important. And everyone knows there's these votings on Twitter that's going on, like what Flare Finance is doing. This is kind of to help everyone get their feet wet, getting used to being part of a governance. But when the real governance voting happens, it'll take place in like Bifrost Wallet, or it'll take place in your actual, Flare account, and you'll be voting from there, not on Twitter. But I think it's a good step to get people used to this whole governance thing. As you, as a participant, earning yield and unlocking value, you're also participating in the governance because you're now, you have the keys to the kingdom since you're getting Spark airdrop to you if you were an XRP holder in December.
Yeah.
You should be participating in the governance and earning the yields. There's going to be a minimum on the vote for just the FS that's going live. So everyone is going to have to participate just for that system to get up and running, a minimum at least.
Yeah, I'm curious what the voter turnout
Hmm.
requirements are going to be for that. Maybe we can, as we get into our call with Hugo later tonight and
Mm-hmm.
Dogecoin Militia, get that question in as well. And so, for anybody that didn't know, tonight at 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so really late, we are going on a Twitter Spaces call with Hugo, the founder of Flare Networks, and then as well as Dogecoin Militia and a couple of their community members, just to have a conversation, and hopefully we'll get some questions answered that we've had about the F asset system in particular for a while. But don't worry, like if that's going to be too late for you, we are going to be recording it and we'll upload it either, afterwards, maybe depending on what time it is, or the next morning we'll have it up. Yeah, I just don't want to make promises if it ends up being like a 2 hour podcast,
Yeah, let's
basically.
hope
And
it's
then,
not too
yeah, I
late.
may be passing out by the end of it, but
Yeah, that's a late one for us. But we haven't spoke to Hugo in a while, so I think this is really going to be a good conversation to have with him. I mean, it is going to be interesting. Last one that we had was overlapped with the Doge community, and a lot of them are new. So they're going to ask some basic questions, and Patty and I are going to ask some more technical questions. So there is that overlap with the knowledge level between communities and within the community. But that's something that just comes with the territory. Everyone's at a different level, but I think at some point we all got to get up, up in our levels so we can understand and make our best decisions to be able to maximize our profits and our yield from this opportunity.
yeah, and I mean, I'm pretty grateful that Dogecoin Militia has let us get in on the last call with Flare
Mm-hmm.
Finance because we definitely got some good questions answered there. And then we have a ton for tonight, probably more than we'll even get to ask because it'd probably keep Hugo there for like 4 or 5 hours. but that's okay. We'll try and focus on what we think are the best ones. But kind of so yeah, one announcement we did see today, and we covered it in the earlier video, was Flare Network receiving $11.3 million from a variety of funds, and that kind of goes into that borderless capital that we were just talking about with Algorand. They were part of that. I also wanted to point out in that article, they have a quote from Hugo saying that the F asset minting will most likely go live in the 8th week, which, like Mickey was saying, is dependent on a governance vote. So, that kind of is going to change people's strategy on how they want to attack Flare in the first 2 months, because Flare Finance is supposed to be launching 1 month after launch. So they'll have some of their products up and available to use, ones that include like Spark, their stablecoin, YFlare, YFin. So
Wrapped
that'll,
assets.
yeah, exactly, wrapped assets as well. So it kind of, throws a little wrench, I'd say, into our original thoughts about what was going to happen, but that's okay. Nothing's set in stone, and at least now we have a good idea with what we're working with there. It just kind of opens up an opportunity to where maybe you want to acquire Spark earlier on via purchasing it or trading some other asset for it, so you can earn those FTSO votes from delegating your detachable vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This also applies to, depending on, I know there's new people who come into the community who weren't here in December to be able to participate in the Spark airdrop. So they weren't part of the snapshot. So then, they were thinking, oh, we're going to mint our FXRP and we'll earn Spark that way. Well, now you got an 8-week gap here from launch to when the minimum of when the FXRP minting will begin. So it just changed the strategy here. Even for those who are receiving Spark, you're only going to receive 15% on day one. So no matter what your XRP stack was in December, you're only getting 15% of that. So, I mean, just to talk here about, I know a lot of people ask, oh, what's Spark's price going to be? What's going to happen at launch and all that? There's going to be a lot of exchange trading it. You'll probably have the weak hands will just dump right away who just don't know what this is. And then you'll get a rush of demand from people who realize what we just said right there. Like, okay, now we have an opportunity. If we purchase the Spark, or if we get it, or if we have it already, we're able to earn more Spark at no risk. And we're able to utilize that Spark simultaneously. Once people get that light bulb moment in their head where they're like, wait, I could earn yield here, 28 million Spark are generated every day. So every day is 28 million Spark for everyone to earn. And that's going to happen every day for the first 6 months. So that's a lot of Spark, with only 5 to 8 billion being really circulating in the beginning, and really only probably half that actually on the market circulating.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. So we did a video a few weeks back just on possible earning potential and how the rewards are calculated for the FTSO. And in that model, we were assuming the F asset system was going to go live in the first week. So that also means that there's going to be less supply being brought onto the market in the first couple of months. So, there's not going to be as large of an eligible Spark supply to be open to receiving the Spark rewards from the FTSO. So, those numbers should just naturally bump up a tad. So, that's one nice thing, I guess, that comes out of it, is the FTSO is going to have less Spark competing for those rewards on a daily basis until we start having that extra Spark supply in the initial distribution coming through the FLTC rewards pool and general F asset rewards pool. But
That's a good point.
yeah. And so I guess for the rest of this, Mickey, I know we want to kind of get into an AMA style thing. So I'm kind of behind the chat already because I've seen some good questions. But since we didn't really get into any questions yesterday, we'll probably be taking most of the time now to do that. So I actually have, honestly, I like this one right off the bat. It's kind of why I didn't move down in the chat yet. But Adam Cobb said, is the Flare network scalable, decentralized, and secure? Overcoming the trifecta dilemma? So I think that's a nice question to start off with if you want to take
That's a
it.
good question. We could both take it. I'll take the aspect of the decentralization side. All right. So one thing that Flare is able to do on the decentralization and the distribution is they're able to bootstrap off of the XRP community in the distribution of the native token. Two of the hardest things to do when you spin up a network like a layer one like that is to get your token distributed far and wide to a large community. And that already exists with XRP. So that's check one. they have that. Now, when it comes to decentralization, you're going to have these state connector systems, which are UNLs. So there'll be a unique node list of validators that will be on Litecoin and also Flare, on XRP Ledger and also Flare, on Stellar and also Flare, on what's the other one? Oh, Doge and also Flare. And they'll overlap the quorums a little with one or two of the nodes, and then they'll put Avalanche consensus on top. So what that does is allows the network to be decentralized out the gate without having to use value to support that decentralization. So there's no proof of stake here. So they're not using value to support the consensus. So I think what they're doing here is kind of revolutionary. Most networks bootstrap based on the token's value and using that to support the security of the network. So they're not using that. They're using basically a iteration of federated Byzantine agreement with Avalanche to create a decentralized network. And then they use the Ethereum virtual machine on top for smart contracts, which basically will help with the interoperability with a lot of the ERC20s. That's what allow Flare Finance to do the Flare wrap. Do you want to take the scalability side of things?
Yeah, I can definitely touch on that. So, kind of going off what you're just saying about how the consensus is organized, as far as like a transactions per second standpoint. So, like how much throughput's going on
I think
the
they said
mainnet for
6 or
Flare.
7,000.
Yeah, exactly. So
I
I
heard.
know Avalanche Consensus Protocol, like their base TPS is 4,500, and then we know like XRP Ledger and Stellar blockchain, around 1,500. Now, how exactly those two melding together are going to work synergistically, I don't know how much higher that can push the TPS, but yeah, I'd say like 5K or more. So like, better than what the XRP Ledger already does on that front. And then also, you're not using proof of stake. So the native asset is freed up for many more use cases, and the security of the network isn't reliant on how much value is staked in the native asset. So that will allow for, more scalable outcomes. And then you have that special connection with the XRP ledger. So some of the trading can be taken onto the XRP ledger instead of having it be on the Flare network. And then we're also seeing side chains introduced on the XRP ledger. So maybe there could be some interesting use cases between Flare and an XRPL sidechain. We'll have to see about that. But I think all those things kind of lend into how the network could scale in the future. And then the security part, I mean, I think, that has to do with the consensus. Do you believe that federated Byzantine agreement is, a correct path in doing that? It's what the XRP ledger has used. Stellar. It allows like individuals to make their own choice on, quorums and UNLs and things of that nature that they're going to trust. And there's not necessarily an incentive behind it. So you don't have like miners like you would on Ethereum or Bitcoin that really just care about getting the highest mining fees. It's mainly just running the software for the entire blockchain, and make sure it doesn't go down. So no like misaligned incentives
Mm-hmm.
between the validators and the participants on the network.
Yeah. And so what it does is it uses, instead of rewarding miners or rewarding proof of stake validators, the inflation mechanism rewards the signal providers, which are the oracles who provide the price feeds. So you allow for a decentralized oracle system to be built into layer one, which is layer one's the infrastructure layer. And that's kind of a unique breakthrough design. There's no real other major network that does that. And I guess the other thing I guess we got to throw in here is that Flare team built in a very, I guess, complex, but really good governance system. So decentralization doesn't mean that the network can't make governance decisions. It just means it's decentralized, that no one entity or any small group is going to make the decisions for the network, because decisions need to be made and parameters need to be changed as we go along. And I think we all know from Bitcoin, it really can't evolve because there's the misaligned incentives and there's no governance structure. And even the XRP Ledger's governance structure has some centralized components to it where it's just those 35 or 37 validators who make the vote on amendments. Now that works for the XRP Ledger, but with Flare, what's nice is everyone who's a Spark holder, you get one vote for one Spark. So you'll be able to vote even if your Spark is utilized somewhere in a smart contract, you still get your governance vote and you'll be able to utilize it. So that will, since it's being distributed out wide to the whole community, nobody's going to have a controlling stake in the governance. So the value is used for the governance of the network, though. So that, I think, is an important thing instead of using it for the security.
I do, yeah, and I do want to add on top. So since every Spark holder is going to be getting governance votes, that kind of puts a higher responsibility on us than we would have owning XRP on the XRP
Mm-hmm.
ledger, especially if the F asset system will not go live without a governance vote where there's enough voter turnout. So like when we get to that point, I mean, anybody that's interested in using Flare is really going to want to like make sure that message is getting passed around as much as possible. Like people that are going to have the Spark token and things like that, making sure they vote to get that system to go live. Because the worst thing I could see happening really is if for some reason there's just no voter turnout and the F asset system keeps getting pushed back. That would be a
Yeah.
pretty big issue in my opinion. So it's going to be a community effort and educating people to do that and just getting the word around like, hey, this is the vote coming up, like this is how you need to do it, or like what steps you need to take to vote. It should be rather simple, just doing it from your
Mm-hmm.
wallet, but it's just things to take into account. And
Yeah, I
then,
expect the
yeah,
Flare Foundation to be something we'll ask him about tonight of how they're going to roll that out to kind of guide the community, because there needs to be some guidance, and it's not going to be the Flare Network team that's going to do this. So just so everyone knows that they're not going to be like a Ripple. All right, just so we know what to expect. It's going to be community driven, and there'll be different stakeholders, like you said, that one VC firm, there'll be agents, there'll be signal providers. So there's a diverse group of different stakeholders here, from signal providers to community holders of Spark to agents to validators to nodes. So there's a lot of different participants.
yep, for sure. And then this next question I see,
That was a good question, by the way.
yeah, absolutely, Adam. And then XRP 420 says when you mint your XRP into FXRP, it's still XRP, so it will be smart to turn all your XRP into FXRP so you can get rewards of more more XRP and Spark, right? So he's saying if you basically mint all your XRP into FXRP, that would result in more Spark rewards. That is correct. And just to kind of like, go into that more, FXRP is a trustless version of XRP on the Flare network. FXRP has the technicals that align with its underlying protocol, which is like the Flare network blockchain. So that's important to note that there's difference on that level between the two, but the prices will have a one-to-one peg through the FTSO. There'll be a small amount of basis risk, and that's if maybe FXRP could be trading at a premium on the FlareX decentralized exchange, maybe just because it has built-in
Mm-hmm.
yield. But there'll be people that are arbitrage trading that will kind of flatten that out over time. You may have some arbitrage between a centralized exchange and the Flare network if it's hooked up with the Flare network and the prices are, divergent enough for somebody to make a profit off that. I also want to add, so I was going back through the FXRP system white paper today, and one thing that just kind of I had forgotten about, but I think it's really important, especially if you're like just learning about this, is that when you have agents that are backing a F asset position with Spark collateral and they fall below this limit called a collateral call band, which is like, let's say the collateral ratio is 2.5x, and that would be like 2.45x. And if they stayed below that 2.45x for like a couple ledger closings, then the F asset system would start taking their Spark and buying FXRP off the open market to start unwinding their position until they're back in the proper collateral ratio. So that's like something that's automatically happening that's going to protect people from having their F assets defaulted on in any way. That's like a really nice, what would you call it? Like a safety net,
Trustless.
basically.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah, that's the
safety net.
trustless part. Yeah.
Yes. So there's nobody custodying your XRP. Like when you mint to FXRP, there's nobody holding your XRP for you. It's the system. It's a whole system. It's the protocol that's holding it. So it's all built with smart contracts and connection with the state connector system to the ledger. But there's no actual custodian of your XRP. You always have a claim to get it back, and that claim is through the protocol on Flare. So that's the F asset system. It's a claim. So you'll always be able to redeem when you want, but like the person who asked this question, well, you're going to give up your yield if you do redeem, though. So it is possible, Patty, that there could be a premium on FXRP. I mean, it looks like that way. It also comes with an FTSO vote. Now, that FTSO vote doesn't earn you rewards, but the signal providers will want them for voting power in the Flare Time Series Oracle system, so they could compensate you in some way.
Yep. And then I see, so Matthew Kolba asked about the probity, I guess, alpha test. And I just want to let everybody know that if you go to trustline.co, that's their website, you have to join a waitlist to be able to test the iOS app out. If anybody has seen that, it's just an alpha test. So it's very base level. It's just signing up with a username in there, and then you can send it back and forth to people that their username just to
One
test
thing that
out that
was
it's working. Yeah.
So you said you downloaded that. I didn't get a chance to. I remember you pointing out yesterday, we were talking about this. It auto-generated you a pay string, right?
Yeah, so I just made
I
my
thought that was really
username
cool.
Patty XRP, and then it had the pay string that goes with it.
See, I
Yeah.
like that. I like that they're connecting a domain to the account. I just think that will help with authorization and stuff and security of your actual account when you have it on probity, because you're going to have to go through KYC and AML for that stuff.
Yeah.
But that's good. I mean, I think this is a good thing because it'll bring in more regulated, entities. And speaking of the trust line, I think the Droid, just so everyone knows, I think there will be a Droid version soon. I think he said, but they're working on that. Just so everyone knows. Sorry for people who have Androids. Usually it's the other way around.
Yep.
Sorry, Don.
Cool. So the next one, I see a few wallet questions, so I'll try and hit these all in one. So Alexander was saying, it's hard to get a straight answer on this. I linked my Ethereum address to receive my Spark airdrop, but there is Ethereum currently in the wallet. So yeah, you're wondering if something could get screwed up. So my understanding of this, and I encourage you to look, Google it maybe a little more after I say this, but just from what I've found, Toho Labs and Bifrost, or I believe, have said that there could be issues in seeing the tokens within your wallet if you use an Ethereum address that has other tokens in it already. There's still time to change it if you would like. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't receive the tokens. It may just be some error in like reading them through the wallet, and you'll have to go through some troubleshooting to get that figured out. Also, like, who knows how long it takes you with your wallet provider to get that figured out. So, you could be, waiting a couple days before utilizing them. So I just, something to take into account. If anybody else has seen more on that, maybe throw it in the chat for Alexander. But
I would say
yeah,
generate, if that's a possibility. You're better with the technicals of that. So that was a good explanation. But
I would go
I mean,
empty ETH
I would
address.
say empty it and use an
Yeah.
empty Ethereum address. So you just you have a couple days now. So now this is the time to use an empty address. So you don't have those problems if they do come up now that you know about them. I would just set up create a new MetaMask with an empty wallet and use that Ethereum address.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think that's the best way to avoid the problem.
you could literally just create another, like, let's say you're doing Ledger Nano, you could just create another
Mm-hmm.
Ethereum address. Like, you can have multiple Ethereum accounts on there if you wanted. So that's an option as well. Or yeah, you could go to My Ether Wallet or MetaMask and do it. And then, so somebody was asking about Ledger. Is Ledger going to lag hard on the airdrop? Is MetaMask a good option to receive the airdrop instead? So I'll go. I have a Ledger Nano. The majority of my XRP was on there for the snapshot. I'm going to go ahead and just use the Ethereum address on my Ledger Nano. I'm hopeful that Ledger Nano will be supporting the Spark token at launch. If not, then I'll either just connect my Ledger Nano, which you don't have to give up your private keys to do this, or your seed phrase. You can connect it to the MetaMask client and then access your tokens through MetaMask. Otherwise, you could just export your seed phrase to the Bifrost wallet, and you'll be able to access your Spark tokens from there every month without having to send them over. I'm not like officially decided on which one of those routes I'll go. I'm probably just going to wait and see if Ledger is going to support the Spark airdrop first.
Yeah.
But you have
So to add
options,
on to,
so that's the
yeah.
thing. It's not like, it's maybe you have to take an extra step if Ledger doesn't end up
Mhm.
supporting. So it's just up to you if you want to take
Mhm.
that chance or not.
Yeah, and then just to add on there, I mean, you could receive your. It looks like Ledger is going to support receiving it. I just wouldn't plan on using your Ledger with Flare. It's going to be clunky. It's going to have an app. I mean, it's just not going to be built for it. Receiving there is fine. I would just plan on, using the Bifrost wallet. I think it's going to be a much better option when it comes to usability and connecting to dApps and all that stuff, than using your nano ledgers. I just think that's going to be not the best user experience when it comes to using the Flare network. I mean, Toa Labs is building an app, so they might let you do your signal provider delegating, but connecting to the dApps, that's where, I don't know, it's going to be difficult for Ledger to connect to. I think it'll be clunky, and you have to keep plugging the thing into the computer every time you want to do something. So long-term usability, I mean, even if you are going to plan on receiving it on your Ledger, I would still think to download the Bifrost wallet when it comes. And we are not sponsored by Bifrost. We have nothing to do with Bifrost. I'm just saying that is my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like a while ago when we kind of like maybe March, we're like, what are we most excited to see? And we're like, we
Yeah,
just want to
wallet.
see the
Yeah.
wallet, and it looks pretty good. I mean, it's doing
Yeah,
everything that I was
multi-chain.
hoping it. Yeah, honestly, it's as much as I could have hoped for. I think
Yeah.
like it's
And
gonna let you do everything and hold everything. So,
I think there's
um,
more to come with that. Like we only got like the bare minimum. They just said basically multi-chain, it will connect to dApps, it will have like a mobile app, and it'll have a desktop version, and then there might be a browser extension. So we
yeah.
just got the basics, but we don't know fully everything yet. But to hold multi-chain assets is no easy feat here, to do and connect to dApps on Flare. So what they're building is pretty powerful, in that way. I mean, I look at it as like it might work with MetaMask, but it sounds like I'm hoping it's a better version of MetaMask for the Flare network and
Yeah,
for XRP.
Yeah, and they also so like they're going to be it looks like supporting Ethereum DeFi projects as well, so like connecting to those, and
Mm.
we know we have that Flare wrap bridge that goes across the two. So I don't know, maybe some use cases will come around on, the outlets on the Ethereum side to use some Flare assets there that maybe it's just not available on Flare yet that you could take advantage of, or something of that nature. So that'll be interesting to watch for. And then also Michael was asking, and a few other people, when is the Bifrost wallet launching? Hopefully before Flare goes live. So yes, Bifrost wallet confirmed. We have asked Toa Labs. They said the wallet will be live before, or like when Flare launches. They're planning on doing a beta test where you can go ahead and set up your wallet address and everything. So you could potentially, if you wanted to import your seed phrase, do that then before the airdrop even comes in. So everybody should feel good about that launching, and being available on day one to start delegating your votes to the FTSO.
Yeah,
Um,
so I think that might be just the desktop wallet. So one thing that we talk about in the Patreon group is that we did say that in preparation, if you really feel like you're going to be participating in Flare and the DeFi on there, you want to have a good phone that's new and secure, and you kind of want to have a good computer too. So those are two things that you should be thinking about in preparation, that separate from any of the technicals, but that you could prepare for to set yourself up right so you don't have problems. Like I wouldn't want to use an old phone with some of the new iOS apps, Android apps, and the same thing goes for your computer, on the security side of things.
yep, cool. And then let's see. I'm gonna keep going through some of these questions. Oh, so actually, yeah, one thing I want to address, somebody just brought up about how you could possibly use the Flare farm with YFlare to get YFin. I'm not sure if they're going to let you do that right off the bat, but
Oh, the one-sided pool.
yeah, but there's only like a couple one-sided pools.
I only saw that one
Let me see. I'm going to
in
pull
the
it
white
up.
paper.
Yeah.
I think that was the only Flare farm pool. Remember, those Flare farm pools are not providing liquidity. That's liquidity to mine the new YFin out. And there was one pool, I think, that was just YFlare you could put in by itself. And it had the least, it was like 1x. You get the least YFin with that. And you get the 4x if you put LP token, that's like FXRP and YUSD. those will get you the most YFIN out of the Flare farm pools.
Yeah. I'm trying to open up of course, I should have had it open before we
I
started
think it's
this.
only one, but they didn't say it
Yeah,
was
it's
like
just one. I got it pulled
definitive
up
though.
here. So yeah, basically it's kind of changed since the first beta on the way that they're doing it, based on the white paper. So YFlare will be the only single-sided pool, and they're only delivering 344 YFIN over the course of 2 years through that. And then we're gonna have multiple dual token pools that you get into these pools by providing liquidity through the Flare
Flare X.
Finance, yeah, Flare X platform. And these are going to be Spark to YUSD, YFlare to stablecoin, YFIN to the stablecoin, and then all the F assets against YUSD. So you can kind of see it scales higher as you get into the F assets on how much YFIN is being delivered through there. People are definitely going to be a little more risk adverse when it comes to these because you would be subject to some impermanent loss through, which it's only permanent if you remove your tokens from the pool. But we'll get into impermanent loss more in the
Yes.
future. Really, in short, it's just the opportunity cost of either holding the tokens that you have versus putting them in the liquidity pool and what you're able to pull out at the end, as it has like an algorithm that rebalances the pool so that the assets on both sides equal the same amount. So that's kind of where that comes from. And then it really has to do with price volatility. But you can see with a little higher risk comes a much higher reward in the 4x rate on the F asset dual token pools. So that's going to be interesting to see. I also want to point out something interesting. The Flare Loans platform is getting 1,000 YFIN for extra incentives to use it over the course of 2 years. And that's going to be paid out to borrowers and lenders. So you could be a borrower on the Flare Loans platform and earn YFIN. So I think that's really interesting that they're doing that. And the same thing goes for Flare Mutual. If you are providing coverage in the form of your assets, you can earn YFIN, as well as if you are receiving coverage, you can earn
Yeah.
YFIN in the same amount as the Flare Loans platform. So they're definitely
Yeah.
using YFIN to really, kickstart a lot of these different applications that they have.
Yes. And now, just so everyone knows, YFIN, there's only a supply of 11,000, and you only could obtain new YFIN from liquidity mining it out of the Flare farm pools or out of Flare loans or out of Flare Mutual. There's no other way to obtain new YFIN. And the most is going to come from the Flare farm pools. So there's 2 tokens in the Flare Finance. There was originally supposed to be 3, but there's only 2 native tokens. So just so everyone clears that up, because there's like old information still lingering around, and these things have changed slightly. So for those who haven't seen, there's YFlare. That's the one you're going to be given from the snapshot. So they're going to snapshot your Spark 1 month after the Flare network goes live, and there'll be 40 million of 110 million distributed YFlare. So there's only 110 million YFlare too. So these tokens should have decently value-wise, like dollar-wise. There's not many of them, so they should have a higher value than say like XRP and Spark, just because there's a lot less. And YFIN might have like a crazy high value. So think of like Yearn Finance when you see that one on, Binance or wherever you're trading, it's like 40 something thousand. That's what YFIN's probably going to be around. Like it's going to be a very high price token, so it will gain a lot of attention just because it's high priced, but you won't earn much of it. You'll get like fractions. Think of like Satoshis, or think of like Bitcoin, really.
Yeah.
I mean, in that way.
Oh,
So yeah, it's a fascinating ecosystem.
Absolutely. And
And I was
so,
just, last thing I just wanted to throw in is that you got to look at all these DeFi products as like one big tool bag. They're all a bunch of tools, and you could utilize these different tools in different ways based on your situation and what your strategy is. You don't have to go all in on one. You could take and allocate percentages of your FXRP or allocate percentages of your Spark. You use them as tools. So you want to know how the tools work first before you make decisions. So that's what we're doing now, is learning about all these different tools. And then you want to put them to work to unlock your value in FXRP and Spark to earn more value. So you don't have to just count on capital appreciation to ride you to the moon. Now we have all these new tools. So it's like, oh, whole new tool bags opened up. You know, just like the way the central banks say toolkit, well, we have a powerful toolkit now that they couldn't even fathom yet.
Not to get you too excited, but right before I started this stream, World Economic Forum put out a DeFi toolkit.
Oh, they did it. Nice. All
Yeah,
right.
so
So
we'll have to look
tomorrow,
into that.
video incoming. All right. That's news. I knew they were going to do that. We were
Yeah.
waiting on it, but all right. So video incoming tomorrow on that, everyone.
Yeah, I saw your buddy Shaunus post that.
Nice. I haven't seen Shaunus in a while. I miss him.
Yeah.
He's a character. Good guy.
Yeah. So basically, let's see. Yeah, so I saw some people asking about the D-Flare airdrop. So I have that up on our website. Let's see, that was that same page. So I put a few more things on here for Flare Finance. I have a tokenomics page now you can reference, and you guys can kind of see what's going on with YFlare, where it's being distributed to, as well as YFin and how you can earn YFin through which platforms. So basically what's happening, so you're going to have, it's called an initial DAO offering, so an IDO of the YFlare token, 40 million of the total 110 million supply of YFlare will be delivered via airdrop to Spark holders on they'll be taking a snapshot about 1 month after launch, so I'm assuming around 30 days, and this will take into account how many Spark you currently have at the time. So that will most likely be the first 15% of Spark that you receive, and then any Spark you accrue within those 30 days. And basically what you can do is, you see this formula, you would take 40 million of the D-Flare that's going to be airdrop, divide it by the circulating Spark supply, and then multiply it by the user Spark supply, and that'll tell you how many D-Flare that you're going to get. In order to obtain YFlare, which is the actual like utility token that has functionality and will have a price associated with it, you will have to sign up with Civic. And interestingly enough, their CEO is actually now invested in the Flare network via that latest funding round. So maybe we'll see more from them in the future.
Yeah.
And you will basically, so you'll take your DFlare token to the Flare X platform, you'll exchange it for YFlare on there, and then you'll also do some tutorials similar to how you would maybe sign up to trade options on TD Ameritrade or like Charles Schwab. You kind of have to go through some information so you know like what you're doing, and that's kind of how they're going to set it up. And then after that, you'll have like 7 to 14 days to claim, and then they'll burn all the DFlare tokens, and all that will remain is YFlare, and that will be what can be used in the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. And then 40 million more YFlare will sit in the APY cloud
reserve pool.
Yep. In the reserve pool. And once you earn YFin, you'll either be able to utilize it on the network in the Flare Finance pools, or you could governance stake it, and you get a guaranteed yield of 5% to 35%. So that's really powerful, and that should support the YFin's value. So besides just having a low token supply, having a governance staking pool will lock up a lot of value. So we'll start to see like DeFi data platforms that will say how much total value is locked on Flare Finance or on Flare. So we'll start to see those things pop up. I don't know who's building those, but possibly some of these VC providers. I mean, it was great to see Digital Currency Group in there because they are behind Grayscale. So they're a powerhouse. So to get them investing in Flare, I thought that was a big thing. And the Algorand team. So I just like the diversity of the VC investors. That was very interesting to see. It wasn't just like Ripple and like two others. It was like a very diverse grouping. And I think they did that on purpose. And they're going to be supporting the Flare network. You're going to see them tweeting, right? What's the capital company called? Kinetic, who is tweeting about them already from Algorand?
Borderless Capital.
Borderless.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting the name. So Borderless Capital was one already tweeting saying, hey, this is the biggest airdrop since Bitcoin Cash. And yes, this is not like Bitcoin Cash. It's not a fork, but airdrop wise, it's the biggest amount of value, even though it's coming at zero, being dropped to the crypto ecosystem in 4 years. So that's an exciting thing. And it's going to get more attention as we get closer. So, and then afterwards too, I think the attention that it gets from like crypto media is going to just snowball. But in the beginning, it might be low. And that's why we have all the opportunity to take advantage of that early. And that's why we're here.
Nice. And then, okay, so I do see, yeah, quite a few people asking about the single and dual token pools. We will cover that stuff in the future. Those are kind of need some
Hmm.
dedicated videos to them.
Yeah.
So we'll have that before it goes live or anything like that. So don't worry about
There's
it.
no single-sided liquidity pools. So,
Yeah, yeah.
like,
It's just
there's
one Flare
no
Farm
option
pool.
on that. There's
Yeah.
only two-sided. Yeah, the flare farms. So there's only two-sided liquidity pools, and we're going to get into that. We just don't want to jump into it now because it actually probably confuse people more. But we'll definitely put videos out about that. And it's something you don't have to decide on your own if you want to participate in or not, but we'll provide all the information on. I think it provides the most rewards opportunity. I guess opportunity cost is the highest, right? Patty, how would you define it with those pools? Just on a higher, on a, like a level like that.
Yeah, so I mean, in the case of, let's just say, in the case of Flare Finance, what all you would take into account. So you would put, let's say you have, XRP, or yeah, XRP is at a price of $1, and you're putting $100 worth of value into a dual token pool, liquidity pool, which is, you'd put $50 in XRP in there and $50 in, like, let's say some stable coin. That way you see both of those values are equal. It's a 50-50 pool. And then essentially, what you do is you would figure out how long do I expect to be in this pool? How much in fees am I expecting to earn? And then how much do I think the price of XRP is going to go up or down in that time? One of the things, though, is like, let's say XRP price were to spike like 20% one day and you have some impermanent loss now due to that. If you don't exit the pool and the XRP price were to come back down, then it would start erasing some of that impermanent loss. So it's all about where you exit the pool that determines if you have impermanent loss or not. If you exit the pool at the same price that the same price ratio between the two assets that you entered it in, then theoretically you don't have any impermanent loss. You didn't miss out on any price appreciation. So you would have just earned a bunch of fees and that would be pure profit. So that's kind of how you
True.
can think about it and what to take into account. Uh,
I'll play the flip side of it. There's
yeah,
also, I
you're
think,
cutting out a
three or
little,
four
Mickey.
revenue streams that you earn from participation. I'm sorry.
It's all
It's
right.
just who I am. So there's three revenue streams. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah,
Good.
yep,
All right. So there's three revenue streams that you can earn that I know. I think there's a fourth, but there's the fees. Then there's the spark that will be airdropped to you just for having an F asset. And then there'll be the LP token, which will go into the Flare farm pools, which will earn you YFIN. And then you take that YFIN and you govern and stake it and you earn from there. So there's four revenue streams there without having to worry about volatility. Now, impermanent loss only means that you would lose potentially some XRP, but you wouldn't lose any dollar value. So this is why people are like, well, I wish this went live only in the bull market. It's actually a great bear market tool to be able to use in these liquidity pools. So it doesn't mean that everything has to be in a bull market to be utilized. It's actually if in stagnant markets, bear markets, it doesn't matter. You could still earn a crap ton of yield and money. So there's plenty of opportunity there. It's just, we got to get away from the mindset. It's like, we're just going to the moon on one shot, price appreciation. But with that said, then there's the other side. There's this SEC case that could end at any moment. And yeah, we probably could go to $10 in the blink of an eye. But once that happens, though, I think that you could really unlock all that value on the Flare network and put it to work to earn multiple revenue streams that are just set.
yep. That sounds good. I did see. Okay,
Sounds really good.
yeah. um, yeah. I mean, I think we're gonna wrap it up here shortly. We're about 45 minutes in, and we gotta
Yeah.
get ready for this thing tonight / get a little rest beforehand. But Nader Zaid was asking about rug pulls on Ethereum and
Mm-hmm.
could that happen on Flare Network? So one of the things that I would highly suggest is like look into projects if they have security audits, read what the public security audits say about the project, what are possible weak points and things of that nature. We learned from Flare Finance that they have multiple security
Triple.
audits. Yeah. And then also Flare Network is as well. Bifrost is going to have an independent security audit. So at least like the things that are getting built out on the Flare network at the beginning are going to have testing done on them by independent parties, and then you'll be able to like read up on their findings and everything, as well as any fixes the team ends up making. So that's something I'd be on the lookout for whenever we actually get those.
Yeah, I
They're
would be
still
careful with
ongoing.
rug finance is not one of them. That's going to be a rug pull if they're going to get triple security audit and they're going to have security as a service. They're not raising any funds, but new things that pop up like right when Flare Network goes live, that's what we got to watch for, like scams and rug pulls. Not necessarily, it's not financial advice. Not these projects that are already in beta and spending a lot of money and putting time with the community. The trust line is pretty solid, built by Ripple Dev. Flare Finance is involved with the Flare team, so I don't see rug pulls coming from those. But there could be like random like projects that pop up early on in the beginning that will try to we got to watch for. Those are the ones I would look out for, that try to offer sensational, crazy yields and come out of nowhere. Nobody's audited them. Nobody's done anything. Those are the ones to watch for.
Yep. And
But at the same time, we do need to see the security audits with Flare Finance.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, also, we're going to have governance votes on some of the applications that
Yes.
come onto the Flare network. So, hopefully we'll be able to weed through some of that stuff before it just randomly pops up, like maybe stuff you've seen on Binance Smart Chain. But yeah, with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Um, yeah, pleasure talking with you
Yeah.
guys today. And if you can't stay up tonight, till 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, maybe if you're in a different part of the world, it'll be easier. We will have that replay up for y'all tomorrow. And hopefully, we're going to hear some new interesting things from Hugo, especially in regards to the F asset system. So I'm Patty XRP, and with me,
Make it be fresh, and we're
and we're
out.
out. Yep. See you guys.